好，同学们，这一期的视频呢，跟大家分享一下我们 PTE 官网最新的模考D卷口语满分作答。在往期 ABC 卷的分享中呢，同学们可能会发现我回答口语的方式都是压低声音、降调平稳、中等偏快的语速来回答的。那这一次在做 D 卷的时候呢，我还是习惯性的以这样的方式来答题。但是呢，在回答了大概2到3个而已之后，我就换了一种思路，我就想说用我自己喜欢的起伏的音调去答题，我想看一下可以拿到什么样的一个分数。最后呢，成绩出来了之后，我发现我的口语流利度是满分90，发音呢降到了84分。因为之前我用降调压音的方式去答题的时候，我的发音、流利度、口语都是90，甚至我在不做 recall lecture、不做 essential question 的情况下，都可以拿到3个90这样的成绩。所以呢，想提醒大家，如果说你的语音语调把握的不是特别好的话，或许降调压音平稳的方式更适合你，而且你不用顾及那么多。这是第一个。那么第二个呢，我做了模考D卷之后，我发现它难度呢会比 C 卷要大，而且我在带学生的过程中呢，我都会让大家去把4套模考题都做一遍。那么最后呢，我发现这个分数的话，就是 D 卷它跟最后大家去参加正式考试的分数是最接近的。A 卷和 B 卷的给分的话会偏高一些。C 卷和 D 卷呢相对来说会新一点，尤其是 D 卷的话是去年底才出来的，所以说正在备考 PT 的小伙伴们一定要利用好我们的模考题。那么今天这一套题我的示范呢就给大家做一个参考，然后声音上的区别呢大家可以去对比一下我之前分享的 ABC 卷，整个4套题的满分示范呢我把它上传到了百学习这个屏上，如果说想要链接的同学呢也可以私信问我，希望这一期的分享呢对大家有帮助。
I'm here now and I'm ready to start learning. I'm here now and I'm ready to start learning. I'm here now and I'm ready to start learning. I'm here now and I'm ready to start learning. Credit unions are non-profit organizations that were imported to the United States from Germany in the early 1900s. They were regulated in 1934 by the Federal Credit Union Act, which limits membership to groups having a common bond of occupation or association. Groups from particular geographical areas also were eligible to join credit unions. Credit unions are non-profit organizations. Credit unions are non-profit organizations that were imported to the United States from Germany in the early 1900s. They were regulated in 1934 by the Federal Credit Union Act, which limits membership to groups having a common bond of occupation or association. Groups from particular geographical areas also were eligible to join credit unions. There are two main types of market research. Quantitative research involves collecting a lot of information by using techniques such as questionnaires and other forms of survey. Qualitative research involves working with smaller samples of consumers, often asking them to discuss products and services while researchers take notes about what they have to say. There are two main types of market research. There are two main types of market research. Quantitative research involves collecting a lot of information by using techniques such as questionnaires and other forms of survey. Qualitative research involves working with smaller samples of consumers, often asking them to discuss products and services, while researchers take notes about what they have to say. This course provides an introduction to the history and development of the British legal system. Its aim is to describe the evolution of the common law of England, the legal system of England, and the legal profession of England, and to introduce you to the study of constitutions as law, and to the legal aspects of constitutional system of government. This course provides an introduction to the history and development of the British legal system. Its Its aim is to describe. This course provides an introduction to the history and development of the British legal system. Its aim is to describe the evolution of common law of England and legal system of England and the legal profession of England, and to introduce you to the study of constitutional as laws and to the legal aspects of constitutional systems of government. This is an extremely useful resource which ranks books and academic papers on the subject not only in terms of their reliability, but also their readability. As a result, it is likely to save students time and effort that would otherwise have been spent working through a lot of dense texts. This is an extremely useful resource which ranks books and academic papers on the subject not only in terms of their reliability, but also their readability. As a result, it is likely to save students time and effort that would otherwise have been spent working through a lot of dense textbooks before finding the one they really need. Closure activities allow participants to consolidate learning, say goodbye to group mates, and attend to any unfinished business prior to the ending of group experience. Generally, these activities involve some reflection upon what has been learned or accomplished during the preceding time together, and a sharing of those thoughts or insights with other participants. Closure activities allow participants to consolidate learning, say goodbye to group mates, and attend to any unfinished business prior to the ending of group experience. Generally, these activities involve some reflection upon what has been learned or accomplished during the preceding time together, and a sharing of those thoughts or insights with other participants. Thus, language acquisition might be like other biological functions. The linguistic clumsiness of tourists and students might be the price we pay for the linguistic genius we displayed as babies, just as a decrepitude of age. Just as a decrepitude of age is a price we pay for the vigor of youth. Thus, language acquisition might be like other biological functions. The linguistic clumsiness of tourists and students might be the price we pay for the linguistic genius we displayed as babies, just as a decrepitude of age is a price we pay for the vigor of youth.
I look forward to meeting you and to helping you realize your goals.
I look forward to meeting you and helping you to realize your goals.
Read the fitness center instructions before attempting to use the equipment.
Read the fitness center's instructions before attempting to use the equipment.
The books are filled with drawings of machines he invented when he was a student.
The books are filled with drawings of machines he invented when he was a student.
Financial support can be offered to help pay your fees and other costs.
Financial support can be offered to help you pay for your fees or other costs.
It is necessary to solve the equation to determine the unknown variable.
It is necessary to solve the equation to determine the unknown variable.
The book is informative but it could be accused of political bias.
The book is informative, but it could be accused of political bias.
During an official ceremony, a memorandum of understanding was signed by the academic dean.
During an official ceremony, a memorandum of understanding was signed by the academic dean.
Our tutorial will take place on the second floor in room 1.
Our tutorials will take place on the second floor in room 1.
The library offers group study rooms so you can work with other students.
The library offers group study rooms so you can work with other students.
Proficiency in a foreign language may be demonstrated by assessment.
Proficiency in a language may be demonstrated by assessment. Average room for interest: New York, Dallas, Phoenix, Honolulu. 47.25, 33.70, 7.66, 22%, 22.02. This graph gives information about average rainfall in inches, including New York, Dallas, Phoenix, and Honolulu. According to the graph, the highest figure is showing New York, which is about 47.25. According to the graph, the lowest figure is showing Phoenix, which is about 7.66. According to the graph, the second highest figure is showing Dallas, which is about 33.70. According to the graph, the lowest figure is showing Honolulu, which is about 22.02. According to the graph, different cities have different figures. In conclusion, we can also see 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Manufacturers, retailers, consumers, recyclers. This graph gives information about manufacturers, retailers, consumers, and recyclers. According to the graph, the first step is manufacturers, which is the most important step. According to the graph, the second step is retailers, which is the second most important step. After that, it will come to consumers, which is the least important step. After that, it will come to recyclers. According to the graph, this process has 4 steps. In conclusion, if we want to start again, we can start from the first step. This graph gives information about amount of food wasted per year in the UK in megatons per year, including food and drinks manufacturers, distribution and retail companies, private household, hospitality sector and institutions, including saved and recycled, thrown away. According to the graph, we can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. According to the graph, the highest figure is showing private household, which is about 8. According to the graph, the lowest figure is showing distribution and retail companies, which is about 0. According to the graph, this process, in conclusion, is very interesting. Eggs, embryo, tadpole. This graph gives information about the life cycle of a frog. According to the graph, the first step is eggs, which is the most important step. According to the graph, the second step is the embryo, which is the second most important step. According to the graph, the third step is tadpole, which is the least important step. After that, it will come to tadpole with 2 legs. After that, it will come to tadpole with 4 legs. Finally, it will become a frog. In conclusion, this process is very interesting. According to the graph, this process has 6 steps. In conclusion, if we want to start again, we can start from the first step. 大家在考试的时候呢，说错了也要保持淡定，把你想说的再说一遍就好了，千万不要停下来去纠正自己的错误。Percentage of students aged 5 to 17 taught at home in USA. 0%, 0.5%. This graph gives information about percentage of students aged 5 to 17 taught at home in USA from 1999 to 2012, including 0%, 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%, 2%, 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, and 4%. According to the graph, the second highest figure showing 2007, which is about 2.9%. According to the graph, the second lowest figure showing 2003, which is about 2.2%. According to the graph, we can also see 1.7% and 3.4%. In conclusion, this picture is very interesting. 其实这种数据图呢，大家在考试的时候，你看到什么就可以说什么，你可以按照模板走，或者说模板的内容讲完了，你图片上还有一些文字啊、数字啊没有念到的，你可以在任何地方，或者说在总结句的时候来补。This graph gives information about percentage of students from disadvantaged backgrounds entering university in England, including 60% increase in 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014 in different years, including 10, 15, and 20%. According to the graph, the highest figure is showing 2014, which is about 20%. According to the graph, different years have different figures. In conclusion, if the figures continue the same trend, it will be hard to predict in the future.
So let me begin with the notion of a dimension. The dimension is simply how many numbers that you need to specify a location. So if we think about the surface of the Earth, the equator is one-dimensional. You need to specify only one number to specify a location on the equator, namely the longitude. The surface of the Earth altogether is, of course, two-dimensional. You need to specify 2 numbers, the latitude and longitude, to specify a location on the Earth. The space above the Earth is 3-dimensional. If I want to tell you the location of a hang glider, I need to give you the latitude, longitude, and altitude. But mathematically, there's no reason to stop at 3 dimensions. A 4-dimensional space is simply a space in which you need to specify 4 numbers to specify a location in that space. A 5-dimensional space would be one in which you need to specify 5 numbers, etc. In fact, I claim you already know an example of a 4-dimensional space. So let's define an event just to be an occurrence that happens in a small region of space at a definite time. In other words, an event is like a snap of your fingers or a clap of your hands. And now the collection of all events, if I want to specify an event, I need to give you 4 numbers. I need to tell you where it happens in space and when it happens in time.
This lecture gives information about the notion of dimension, which is the numbers needed to specify location. According to the lecture, the speaker mentioned Earth and equator is one-dimensional and surface of Earth is two-dimensional, including latitude and longitude. According to lecture speaker mentioned, space above Earth is three-dimensional, including latitude, longitude, and altitude. According to lecture speaker mentioned, four-dimensional is full numbers to specify a location, and five-dimensional would be the five numbers to specify a location. According to lecture, the speaker mentioned to specify event, we need to know where it happens in space and what happens in time. 好，超时了。其实大家在讲的时候没有必要去讲我这么多东西，其实我刚刚就是想把我最后一句话说完哈，然后发现时间不太够了，就会有一点点慌张。但实际上有一些小错误也是没有关系的。这个考试呢，口语它的容错率还是比较高的。之后呢，我们可以一起来看一下我这个口语的分数。
The first results on the Welsh language were reported in March 2003. The census found that there were 576,000 Welsh speakers aged 3 and over, or 21% of the population, which represents a 2% increase since 1991. The proportion of people in Wales aged 3 and over who can speak, read and write Welsh increased from 13.6% to 16.3% over the period 1991 to 2001. A further 138,000, or 5% of the population, said they understood Welsh but did not speak it. In addition, 84,000 gave a combination of positive responses that was imprecise, making it difficult to work out whether they could understand, speak, read or write Welsh. The growth in the number of Welsh speakers has occurred largely in the south and east of the country.
This lecture is talking about Welsh language. According to lecture, the speaker mentioned census found 576,000 Welsh speakers, which is 20.1% of population. According to lecture, speaker mentioned 2% increase in 1991 and 3 and over increase from 1991 to 2001. According to lecture, speaker mentioned 5% of people can understand Welsh but cannot speak. According to lecture, speaker mentioned the data is imprecise, making it difficult to work out whether people can speak or write. According to lecture, the speaker mentioned the growth is in south and east. In conclusion, it's very interesting.
The most visible manifestation of this wealth was a series of grand projects that were begun by Napoleon III, mainly in Paris, soon after he came to power in the 1850s. He said, "I want to be a second Augustus," making reference to the Emperor Augustus's claim that he'd found Rome a city of brick and left it one of marble. In the case of Napoleon III, he found Paris in 1851 a city of cobblestones and twisting medieval streets, and he left it one of asphalt and macadam, because what he began doing was bulldozing old Paris, the ancient medieval part of Paris, and replacing it with wide new boulevards, 85 miles of them, that he lit with some 20,000 gas lamps, which he took out all the old 18th century oil lamps, replaced them with gas, which gave a much cleaner, brighter, regular light. Also 50,000 trees were planted alongside them, many of them the chestnut trees that we now think of as synonymous with Paris. And he drained the streets with 200 miles of sewers, these new famous Parisian sewers beneath the streets, thereby making the city a much more safer, pleasant place to wander, to stroll, to people watch, to have coffee or absinthe in the cafes.
This lecture is talking about the grand projects by Napoleon III in Paris. According to lecture speaker mentioned, he said, "I want to be a second Augustus," and found Paris in 1851. According to lecture, the speaker mentioned, "Oh, Paris, medieval parts 20,000 gas lamps." According to lecture, the speaker mentioned he replaced them with gas, and which gives a much cleaner, brighter, and regular light. According to a lecture, the speaker mentioned he made the city safer and more pleasant for people to wander and have coffee. According to a lecture, this lecture is very interesting. In conclusion, this lecture is talking about the projects.
How many years are in a decade?
10.
What do you use to identify yourself when you arrive in a foreign country?
A passport.
What do you press when you arrive at someone's front door?
The doorbell.
In which academic field do people study things that happened in the past?
History.
What is the occupational title for the composer of a novel?
Novelist. A novelist.
What do you call a person who is receiving care in a hospital?
A patient.
The terms circumference, diameter, and radius refer most commonly to which geometric shape?
Circle.
What do you call a person who trains a team of athletes?
A coach. Coaches.
To find a detailed topographical map of Africa, what kind of reference book would be best to use?
Atlas. Maps.
What is the term for an extended speech by one person in a play?
A presentation. Talk show. 刚刚呢，我差不多完成了口语部分，还剩4到5个题目，它是我们的大作文和小作文。那么接下来我有时间呢，会再继续给大家完成听读写。那么现在呢，我们就先做到口语这里。平时呢，我让大家去做个模考，很多同学觉得很费劲啊，这个模考要花3个小时时间。实际上大家是可以拆分的。就像我刚只花了25分钟时间做完了口语部分的测试，那大家保存一下这一段录屏，然后呢，你把做过的做一个保存，接下来有时间呢，你再来完成听读写也是可以的。其实如果没有完整大块的时间呢，大家可以这样去拆分一下。